I think the statistical review has changed tremendously over the years. In 60 years, the very first one was 6 typed pages and 1 page with hand-drawn graphs on it, done by somebody called Jamie Jamieson and his statistician Dusty Miller. Then it only covered oil. People were actually need to try to figure out, there was no other data available. How much oil has been produced, where was it shipped? So they drew these little maps with tankers over the ocean. Also, it has changed in another respect. It used to be an internal document. It was the need of the then Anglo-Persian Oil Company to find out who had produced how much oil and where was it going. And there was no other data available, as I said. And so it took some years of sort of illicit circulation in energy circles before it was made published. A few years later, then BP put a stamp on it, and it became a publicly available document, which it has been ever since. In 2010, the biggest findings was an obvious one, which is we have seen tremendous energy demand growth. The highest growth rates for primary energy since 1973, highest energy consumption ever, highest energy consumption per capita. And so the obvious first question was, what caused this very high growth? And there's 2 answers to that. One is it was the economic recovery, the strong bounce back, in particular of the industrial sector. And the second part of the answer is that yes, it was a return to trend, but the trend itself has changed because of the increasing importance of the developing world. And these are very energy-intensive countries, and as their share in what the planet produces grows, so does the need of energy to fuel their growth. And then we look at a second issue, which is the role of prices in this system, in this complicated energy system. How well do they really guide it? What can we say about it? Because many people, as you know, say we should interfere, we shouldn't allow prices to go up or down, or mostly we shouldn't allow them to go up. And we find, not surprisingly, that prices steer the system surprisingly efficient if you let them. And there's tons of stories about this. We see how oil supply is sort of kept short by man-made decisions, and consequently we see the oil price higher than that for coal or for natural gas. We see how, as a result of the shale gas revolution in the US and the amount of LNG available globally now, there's competition between gas and coal, with gas increasingly replacing coal in power generation in many countries. And because of this big difference now between oil prices kept high by OPEC and gas prices kept low because of abundant supplies, we see countries switching. And then the third item we look at has to do with the fact that for the first time ever we include renewables in the printed version of the review. We had them on the internet for a while, but we now made more of a concentrated effort and we print them because in some countries they have grown to size. And so we look in more detail at what can the history of countries which have a high share of renewables in their energy production tell us about how they can be scaled up, what the limits are, what the problems are. To have objective, reliable numbers going back over a long time, accessible for free to everyone who wants to use them, away from all the spin, the politics, the discussions, is, I think, a tremendously important service, and it is recognized as such. The Economist once wrote that this is the only data source of its kind which is freely available. So BP has played this role of a good corporate citizen, trying to underpin the discussion by making information available and put resources to that, to the present day. That, for sure, is recognized. I don't think it's an accident, historically, that it is the economics department who produces this document, different from what other oil companies do. And I'm grateful because we are remarkably free, and when we have collected the numbers, which is an objective thing anyway, to then put them in a little speech and talk about them. The tradition in BP is that this is done without interference and without politics, and that also has contributed to the credibility of it. It has steadied that kind of information flow, and it has made it something which people trust.